All right. Welcome back to WMMA Now with your host Chuck Stevenson, coming at you tonight with a special fight preview. First, I want to apologize for this being a little late. It's been a really hectic week. I know I'm getting this out there in like less than 24 hours before the fight happens, but so we'll get right down to it. We're going to UFC 237 main event, strawweight championship. Rose Namajunas defending her title versus Jessica Batistaca Andrade. So let's look at the stats on these two fighters. Andrade is 1 year older, 27 years old, to Namajunas' 26. Andrade has a lot more experience, 19-6 versus 8-3 for Namajunas. Now Namajunas is 3 inches taller, 5'5" to 5'2" for Andrade. Namajunas will also possess a 3-inch reach advantage at 65 inches to Andrade's 62. So now that we've looked at both of these fighters, how they stack up against each other, let's break down each fighter, and we will start with the title challenger. So let's look at Jessica Andrade's strengths. Andrade possesses relentless pressure. She is going to come forward, and she is not going to come forward until she is either stopped, which has not happened in the strawweight division, or until the final bell ends. She keeps coming forward and coming forward and coming forward, applying pressure non-stop. And she is capable of doing this for 5 rounds, as we saw in her fight against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, where she barely, faltered in the later rounds. On top of that relentless pressure, she also has explosive strength. Okay, she is the only fighter in the UFC's strawweight division that possesses legit knockout power, as we saw in her last fight against Karolina Kowalkiewicz. She also applies that strength into her submissions. She's gotten several submissions in the UFC, including a very nice guillotine choke over Joanne Calderwood. And then she's also explosive in her takedowns. She grabs fighters, picks them up, and throws them to the ground. And then finally, she has incredible endurance. She can take a punch. She can take kicks. She can take everything and keep coming. And this endurance is not only physical, it is also mental. Because to come forward like that for 5 straight rounds against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, knowing that you are down on the cards, knowing that she is outpointing you, and to keep coming forward, that takes great mental endurance as well. So she has both the physical and the mental endurance to take her well into the championship rounds. So now that we've looked at Andrade's strengths, let's look at her keys to victory. First up, she needs to maintain the pressure that she does so well. Rose Namajunas typically does not respond well to fighters who are able to constantly pressure her, so Andrade needs to keep up that pressure well into the later rounds to win this fight. Andrade, I would say, also needs to force the clinch. Another weakness of Namajunas is that she typically does not do well in clinch situations, whereas Andrade is very strong in the clinch. And then finally, Andrade needs to drag this out. I believe that if the longer this fight goes, the more it will benefit her due to the pressure and the fact that Namajunas has only been in one 5-round fight before. Granted, Andrade also has. But the longer you drag the fight out, the harder it is for Namajunas, especially maintaining the pressure. Okay, so we've looked at Jessica Andrade. Now let's look at the defending champion, Rose Namajunas. So Namajunas' strengths. Namajunas has very good footwork, very excellent footwork, as she put on display in her last several fights, especially the first fight against Joanna Jędrzejczyk. She used her footwork to dart in and get that punch against Jędrzejczyk. She also displayed good footwork against Michelle Waterson, when she was able to get out of the way of Waterson's attempted kick, which is when Waterson overextended her kick, and allowed Namajunas to get the knockdown. That was thanks to Namajunas' footwork. In addition to that footwork, Namajunas also has excellent kicks, She's a very front leg heavy fighter, which is what she also usually uses the front leg to kick more often than the back leg. And she is very good with those kicks, creating distance. And then finally, Namajunas has dynamic submissions. She is able to pull them out of nowhere. She is also very crafty with them, whether she's in the guard. She can be on the feet and get them. And she's able to force them when needed to. And finally, let's look at Namajunas' keys to victories now that we've looked at her strengths. So first off, she needs to utilize that footwork, okay? She's got to be on the move almost all the time versus Jessica Andrade. She's going to have to be on the move. She's going to have to stick and move, stick and move, stick and move. It's going to be very hard, but she's going to have to do that. Just Yana and Jacek set out the blueprint to beating Andrade, and it is mostly staying on the outside. So Namajunas is going to have to use that footwork to stay on the outside. Second of all, she's going to have to avoid the clinch. As I said earlier, she typically does not fare well in the clinch versus strong fighters, and Andrade is going to be the strongest opponent, physical opponent she's ever fought. So she's going to want to stay out of that clinch where Andrade can drain her strength and will. And then finally, she has to maintain her confidence. Typically, Rose tends to wilt, pun intended, when the fights don't go her way. She was able to pull it out the 5th round against Yana Jacek, which was atypically out of character for her. But we've seen against the likes of Esparza and Karolina Kowalkiewicz that if a fight isn't really going her way, she tends to fold under the pressure, as it were. So she's going to have to maintain her confidence as well and not get discouraged. Okay, so now we've looked at both fighters, it's time to make my prediction. So, I thought long and hard about this, and, I was almost ready to flip a coin, and then I finally took it to almost like an X factor, and I'm going to pick Andrade possibly by decision, but I picked Andrade based on, she just has that unrelenting pressure. And as I said several times throughout this video, that, Rose tends to fold under that pressure. If she can't keep going, if she can't keep that pressure off of her, she doesn't do well typically in fights. I mean, she couldn't deal with Esparza's pressure. She couldn't deal with Kowalkiewicz's pressure in the clinch. And, even when it went to the ground against Kowalkiewicz, Rose didn't do that well. And she's up against a lot stronger opponent in Andrade. So I think Andrade's strength, her durability, and the constant pressure, that's why I picked Andrade. Now, I think Rose has come a long way since her pro debut and even her UFC debut. But she still has these holes in her game, mostly, the inability to handle pressure well, stuff like that. So that's why I went with Andrade. I think Rose definitely is better as a better technical fighter than Andrade, but technique, sometimes, when you're up against a physical specimen like Andrade, technique can only get you so far. So I went with Jessica Andrade. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think about it, my choice, and my preview in the comments down below. Let me know your winner in those comments as well. Of course, the likes are always appreciated. And what are you waiting for? Subscribe to WMMA Now, the best, fastest growing women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. And we'll see you post-fight for my review.